Hello, I'm Alan Metcalf, and this is Conversations on Safe Worlds TV, coming to you from the Gold Coast in sunny Queensland, Australia. And today I'm talking with Professor David Flint from Sydney, Australia. And what we want to talk about is Saturday's federal election, which is still hanging in the balance. As you know, Australians went to the polls on Saturday in a very, very, very interesting election, which I think is going to be talked about for a long time. It ended up being a neck and neck struggle between Malcolm Turnbull and his government and the Labor Party challenger led by Bill Shorten. And what I want to do before I start with Professor Flint, are you there, Professor Flint?
I am indeed, Alan.
Yeah, let me just quickly, if I can, sir, just go through how I see the outcome of Saturday's election at this stage, and then we can see whether you agree or not, or what your thoughts are. Malcolm Turnbull, I think, has led the Liberals into political gridlock. Labor's Medicare scare may have played a part in this. The government superannuation changes certainly helped sell Labor's Medicare scare. I think it gave the fact that the government introduced the superannuation changes late, I think gave credibility to anything that Labor then had to say about Medicare. I think Labor was robbed of a victory by the Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews and his shenanigans in Victoria. The Trigger Industrial Relations Bill, to my surprise, I hardly heard it talked about in the whole campaign. The Senate is now splintered by the looks of it, and what I see possibly are years of unstable government ahead as the Turnbull government struggles to get its legislation through the Senate. Maybe election was a waste of taxpayers' time and money. The discussion, I guess, in the days to come is going to tell us whether that's how the people feel or not. And I think Malcolm Turnbull's future must now be in doubt. Professor Flint, what do you think of those points? What's your summary of the election?
I'm in agreement with you. From a coalition point of view, from a Liberal Party point of view, this election was pointless because it was doomed to some form of defeat, if not the loss of a majority in the House, certainly the loss of influence in the Senate and the loss of a majority at a joint sitting, which was crucial to getting the three industrial relations bills through the Parliament. Now, Turnbull should have known this. He should have known that had he acted this way soon after he knifed Tony Abbott, he might have achieved a result, but he waited too long. And while he waited, people began to realize that the general impression was he was weak and indecisive. And one possibility is that he took the decision to go to this election to overcome the impression that he was weak and decisive. And it was a serious tactical error from the point of view of the coalition. I think it's a good thing, though, because Australia is essentially a conservative country. Most people, including those who vote Labor, are essentially socially conservative and conservative about many other issues. And what we have is a conservative nation, but we have a parliament about almost 2/3 of which are on the left, because you have the Greens, you have the Labour Party, which represents many people who are really conservative underneath that. You also have the Xenophon team, and you have about 1/3 at least of the Liberal Party who are hard left. That faction has wormed its way into the Liberal Party, and they've got a lot of control over the Liberal Party. So you have a highly unrepresentative parliament in a representative democracy. And I think with this election, there is a chance of the conservative elements making a comeback through the Liberal Party and through minor parties, and in particular through Pauline Hanson's One Nation party.
David, you've been pretty close with Tony Abbott over the years, and that you're a strong supporter. Do you see him making a move against Malcolm Turnbull in the coming weeks, months?
I think Tony will only make a move if he has to. If you go back to when he became the leader, that was 2009, he didn't go into the leadership stakes until it became obvious to him that nobody else was going to challenge the global warming emissions trading scheme that they were going to impose on the country and thus effectively destroy much of the industry and manufacturing industry in the country. He only went in when he saw that neither the two other contenders, neither Turnbull nor Joe Hockey, were going to oppose this. In fact, Turnbull strongly supported it. Hockey moved away from it but declared himself neutral and said it would be left to a conscience vote. It was only at that stage that people like Nick Minchin were able to persuade Tony to put his name forward. I don't think he's not the sort of man who will go and plot against his leader. I think that's the reason why Malcolm Turnbull has never brought him into the cabinet, which he should. He should be the defence minister.
Right.
I think Turnbull never brought him in because Turnbull suspected that he would do precisely what Turnbull does, that is, plot against the leader to take over the leadership.
Right. Yeah, well, I think Malcolm Turnbull's reputation has been badly damaged in this election. I don't know how you feel about that, but I think everywhere people are within the Liberal Party. I've never heard so much open discussion about protest votes and so on. It was totally a shock to me to listen to people talking about protest votes and so on, and they're just their disappointment and dislike for Prime Minister Turnbull, and so I think he's damaged goods at this stage unless he can wield his way back and get on side again with the base. I think he's got a rocky road ahead. I don't know how you see it.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the Liberal Party strategist Mark Textor was wide off the mark when he said, as regards the Conservatives who were upset by the knifing of Tony Abbott, he said, well, they've got nowhere else to go. Don't worry about the Conservatives. We'll pick up numbers from the centre. Right. That will compensate for them. And anyway, the Conservatives are locked in. They've got nobody else to vote for. Well, both of those were completely untrue. The centre, although they applauded, the centre-left, although they applauded the knifing of Tony Abbott and the ascension of Malcolm Turnbull, they were never going to vote Liberal, even though they initially said they would. And the Conservatives do have somewhere else to go. They could fail to vote, as many do. They could vote informal, or they could vote, as many said, strategically, that is, give their first preferences, at least, to minor progressive parties, of which there was a selection.
Sure.
So I think they misunderstood the Conservative base, and that was really demonstrated, wasn't it, Alan, when Turnbull, in the pre-election budget, decided to attack the savings of the elderly and of the aspirational voters, as they're called, by deciding to tax superannuation in the pension phase.
Well, that was just weird. That was, if you sort of wrote a novel about how to shoot yourself in the foot running into an election, you couldn't have come up with a more crazier plot than that one to unhinge everything. And I was shocked when that came about, and I think it had a big effect. Anyway, we're close to a point where we've got to take a break, Professor. Can you hang on there for a second, and we'll be back, and let's continue this conversation. And in the second part, I want to talk to you about the rise of the smaller parties, in particular Pauline Hanson, our friend Pauline, and here in Queensland and Nick Xenophon in South Australia. On that, I'm Alan Metcalf, and we'll be back in a moment with Conversations. Hello, I'm Alan Metcalf, and we're back, and I'm talking with Professor David Flint from Sydney, Australia, about the 2016 federal elections. Professor Flint, before the break, we were talking about the rise of the smaller parties and how the Liberals had suggested that Conservatives had nowhere to go. Well, they certainly, in Queensland, they turned in droves, it appears, to Pauline Hanson. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think this was the logical consequence of the way in which the Liberal Party has been infected by a hard left faction. They're not only just hard left, they're also lobbyists, so they're acting in their personal interests. And this has had the consequence that the party has run much more tightly than before. And you're not free to say as much as you were able to. It was one of the reasons why Pauline Hanson left the Liberal Party. But in addition, pre-selections more and more are rorted in the sense that they're run not by the rank and file of the party or by supporters. Pre-selections are determined by the power brokers, and they choose people who are not chosen on merit. They're chosen because of their loyalty to a particular power broker.
Yeah.
Well, this is a very bad situation, but this means that other people get sick of this.
Sure.
And they go to other parties, and one of the ones which has come out is Pauline Hanson.
Yeah, I got a couple of phone calls this morning which surprised me from people in, dyed-in-the-wool, hardline Liberal guys who said, wow, we didn't see that coming. They didn't see the rise of Pauline Hanson. And boy, I think, I think we've been watching it, have we not, for the past at least 12 months as,
yes.
Following her run in Queensland, which I thought was basically a warm-up and just to keep her name out there in front of the people. And for me, I think what's happened is her persistence. I think the people are rewarding that persistence. She, they've seen her now operate over a period of time, and they're prepared to give her a go. She, I think they gave the Katter Party a go. They gave the Palmer Party a go, but neither of those alternatives really produced much, did they?
They didn't, but she has come forward strongly, and people sense that when she says something, she means it.
Yeah.
They like what she says because it reflects their principles.
Yeah.
Her concerns are theirs. For example, she's concerned about the sale of prime agricultural land, even to foreign governments, the Port of Darwin to a foreign government, at least on a long-term lease. She has the sense, she has the same issues which are the issues of the people, not those of the political parties, and she'll be very good on those. For example, she is very much concerned about superannuation, and the principal parties have tried to suppress that, as has the media. Media has played that down, but it is very much a burning issue. Senator Abetz in Tasmania attributing that as one of the principal causes of the loss of all Liberal seats in the state of Tasmania, which is quite extraordinary.
Well, what do you know of Nick Xenophon? What's your thoughts on his rise in South Australia? I know our good friend Peter Manuel has been telling us about Nick Xenophon for some time, and he had a pretty good result on Saturday.
He did indeed, and he does listen to people. I think he comes naturally from more the centre left or the left, but he is open to being persuaded. He sometimes comes out with, I think, things which are not really very sensible. For example, he wanted to close off completely the export trade in animals, and there's no reason why we shouldn't export animals, provided that it's done humanely.
Sure.
He also called during the time when Qantas was in trouble, when the Qantas union some of them were trying to destroy Qantas as a national airline.
Right.
He came out and called for the dismissal of the chief executive of Qantas, which of course has nothing whatsoever to do with the member of parliament.
Right.
So I think he can overreact and can move to the left, and is accused of voting more often with the Greens than Labour does. But I think he is pliable. He's very much in touch with what people are thinking, and he has an ability to move if he thinks that the people are moving in a certain direction. So I think he will be more reflective than the other left parties.
So what does it look like? Do you see Pauline? I heard her talking this morning, and she was talking about the possibility of 6 Senate seats. I think that'd be amazing if she was able to pick up 6. But what do you see of the minor parties? Do you see the Christian Democrats getting any at all?
I think somebody will, particularly, for example, in New South Wales, there's a chance of 1 or even 2, and the Christian Democrats are among the contenders.
Right.
And so also is One Nation. So there's a possibility of One Nation getting more than 2. It looks as though they probably will have 2, at least in Queensland. Without the personality of Pauline actually campaigning, it's of course not so strong in the other states, but there are other movements. I'm a little surprised that the Australian Liberty Alliance, which had a very sound program, didn't do better, and that may be because people don't know about them.
Right.
The media, of course, played its role in giving minimal promotion to the minor parties, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting election. Do you?
If I may
go ahead.
If I may say one thing, I think that Malcolm Turnbull has only one honourable choice, and that is to resign. And the question is, who will succeed him if he does? He probably won't resign, but he will have to go at some stage, perhaps not immediately, but within a few months. And it's hard to see. I can't see anybody else in the House of Representatives who could replace him but Tony Abbott. And I think Tony Abbott may well come back. Cory Bernardi would be a good contender, but unfortunately he's in the Senate. And I can't see the Liberal Party opening up a seat for him in the House.
No, well, I find it difficult to see how Malcolm Turnbull can be an effective leader without major changes in his outlook at this point in time. I hope I'm wrong, because Australia definitely needs a time of stability, but I think we're in for a period of instability as we have a situation where he tries to take us to the left, and there's just going to be a fight. There's going to be a fight within the Liberal Party. I can't believe that everyone's going to sit back and say nothing if he tries to introduce, for example, reintroduce climate change legislation, which I think he's committed to. I hope I'm wrong. And I think the same-sex marriage debate could be very divisive and very hurtful for him to be pushing, because there are so many others. It's not that these are not important discussion, but are they the most important things that the government should be focused on at this time. That's my concern.
They're not. And he has a history of doing this sort of thing when he thinks that his time is finished. When he, for example, he was going to resign from Parliament, he thought that he'd run his course, and it was John Howard who persuaded him to stay on.
Right.
But during that period, he suddenly revived the question of Australia becoming a republic, and even adopted one view that he'd opposed beforehand, that is, allowing the people to directly elect the president. He pushed all that. He had opinion pieces in London newspapers and in Australia, and suddenly he revived the republic for a short period until John Howard persuaded him to stay in the Parliament. Then he went quiet again. So he is inclined, I think, in times of stress and difficulties to go to extremes, and he may well do that in relation to climate change. He may well think that the way to retain his position is to do that sort of thing.
Well, he's certainly going to be under plenty of stress, and he's going to have a lot of pressure on him in the next 12 months, I think. So anyway, on that point, David, thank you for talking to us at this time. It's a very interesting election, still to be decided. We still don't know who our Prime Minister is, and so Australia's had an unusually long period where we really haven't had government while we've been campaigning and all of this, and now it's prolonged even further. So thanks a lot, David, and hopefully we can get together when we know the result and talk again. I'm Alan Metcalf, and this is Conversations on Safe Worlds TV. We've been talking with Professor David Flint from Sydney, Australia.
Hello everyone, I'm Paul Higgins, and welcome to Safe Worlds TV, the global marketplace, the world leader in internet TV and semantic search, the home of free enterprise, the level playing field that all the world can use for electronic business. With Safe Worlds TV, every business in every country of the world can now be involved in the world economy. There are no barriers to entry. Even the poorest countries and the smallest businesses can be involved. The system is simple. Every country divides into 12 headline channels. Every channel is a gateway to an unlimited number of related community channels. Every community is a social network and a marketplace to sell products and services. There is no limit to the number of businesses that can be connected into a marketplace. There is no limit to the number of products you can sell. All our channels and marketplaces are designed to keep you entertained and to help you do internet business at a cost that everyone can afford. The amazing semantic technology that underpins Safe Worlds TV allows us to deliver this amazing system to the world. It allows us to accommodate millions of TV channels and marketplaces and to link them together into the global marketplace. The vast global marketplace that we are building is the final piece of the electronic global village. This is the ultimate achievement of the internet. What you see here now is only the tip of the iceberg of semantic services that are coming. Come now and see what we've already got. Choose any country of the world, then select the headline channel that you want to explore. Just point and click and follow the logical tree structure. We think you'll be amazed at what we already have in Safe Worlds TV. When you're ready, click on the button at the bottom of the screen and register to become a user. You can start immediately to create your very own internet TV channel. Enjoy the experience. I'm Paul Higgins for Safe Worlds TV.